love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet Union. Hello comrades and welcome back to the Ushanka Show. Today we're gonna try to kill two birds with one stone. So we're gonna talk about one of the popular topic of Soviet anecdotes and about one of the most popular Soviet movies. So if you want to impress any of your friends from Soviet Union or from Russia, you can ask them, hey, do you know any new anecdotes about Stirlitz? And you will impress them really much. Well, who is Comrade Stirlitz? Actually, you cannot say Comrade Stirlitz because he will get uncovered since he was a Soviet spy in Nazi Germany. You can call him only Standartenführer Stirlitz. So here's the story. In 1973, there was a movie called 17 Moments of Spring, 17 мгновений весны. It was actually not a movie but a TV series, something like, similar to Band of Brothers. So there was 12 series about spring of 1945. So events in this TV series taking place in Nazi Germany in Berlin from February 12th till March 24th of 1945, right at the end of the Nazi Germany. And the main character is a Soviet spy, Standartenführer Stirlitz. Fortunately, this movie is available on YouTube, so I'll put links below this video. You can watch it in Russian or you can watch it with English subtitles. And I strongly recommend, if you're interested in life of Soviet people, about life in the USSR, you need to watch this movie. This movie was like one of the biggest hits ever. And of course, that movie also created thousands and thousands of anecdotes about main character Standartenführer Stirlitz. So this movie came out in 1973. It was instantly very popular. Around 200 million people watched it in Soviet Union. And only after 3 months, they already made a replay. Of course, 1973, there were no VCRs, no DVRs. If you missed it, you missed it. So they played it in 1973, and right away, 3 months later, they played it again because people demanded it. And there were official reports from Soviet police, militia, that during when the movie was transmitted, being shown on TV, the electricity consumption went up and the crime went down. Streets were empty. Everyone was watching this movie, so that's quite impressive. This movie had quite an interesting history because, first of all, they had a trouble making it. Of course, 1970s, that movie is in black and white. I actually heard the story that they almost didn't want to, in Soviet Union, since everything was government controlled, when you make a movie, you need to have a final approval from so-called Glavkom, the main commission that checks the movie, makes sure it's a good movie for Soviet people. And some guys didn't like that Germans were way too smart in the movie. And so the movie creators has to explain that, we need to show Germans smart, otherwise people may ask questions. How come if Germans were so stupid, we almost lost the war, were beaten so bad in 1941 and 1942? So that was an interesting detail. So one of the famous Soviet writers, he had a book, and actually there was the Andropovs. Remember Andropov, who was a leader of Soviet Union in 80s? In 1970s, he was the leader of KGB. And Andropov actually would basically requested to make a movie based on this book. And this is how the 17 Moments of Spring were created. Actually, KGB was supporting quite a bit and they provided access, of course limited access, to KGB archives, so movie creators, writers can learn more about German leaders. They also had a couple of consultants, and there was actually one guy that almost like he knew German leaders personally, and they never learned his real name, but he was like a former Soviet spy who was kind of helping with the movie to make sure that things looked realistic, and also he helped to make costumes so they looked just like in real life during Nazi Germany. There were several interesting details also. For example, of course, in any arts, movies, theater, so there were always a lot of Jewish people involved. So when they asked one of the person helping with the movie to get people to play as SS soldiers, he just went for to his friends and asked like, hey, do you want to help? All you need to do is just stay in the hallway and, dressed in an SS uniform, and every time, the Hitler walks by or other high-ranking German officers walk by, you just kind of salute them. But the consultant from KGB, he asked the question like, hey, how come all these SS actors look Jewish? And he's like, well, they are Jewish. Do you have a problem with that? He's like, well, I don't really have a problem with that, but, right now we kind of having issues with Israel. It's 1970s, and we're making a movie showing that Jewish-looking SS soldiers killing Jews. We might have some international problems, so we need to find somebody who doesn't look Jewish for that roles. So they talked to KGB. KGB talked to the Border Patrol Officers School in Moscow and requested tall people to help with the movie. So they sent 10 guys or so from Baltic countries who have kind of German looks, they're tall and blonde, and that's the guys that actually were filmed playing SS soldiers in Berlin. Leonid Brezhnev really liked that movie. And actually, I read a long time ago that, as I said, when they said that Germans were way too smart in this movie and they wanted to not to let movie being played on TV, it was actually Brezhnev who said, no, I like the movie and it needs to be played. And he liked that show so much that actually they awarded a medal to the main actor, Tikhonov. They, since the real person in the movie didn't exist, that spy Isayev, they just awarded actor because Brezhnev liked this movie so much. In 2006, they, in Russia already, they actually make a color version of this movie, which is interesting. They decided to remake it and colorize it. So they spent 3 years, from 2006 to 2009, at the cost of $3,000 per minute. So they made this black and white movie and made it in color. But along the way, they also made a couple changes. They removed a lot of anti-church dialogues. So there was quite a few, since one of the main characters in the movie was a German pastor. So in conversation between Standartenführer Stirlitz and the pastor, they were talking about God and church, and there was anti-church talks. So since now, in modern Russia, church is kind of like back in power, and they removed a lot of wording out of the movie that relates to church and a couple other things. So actually, a lot of people weren't happy about it because they said it's not, they just messed up the real movie. Some people were so impressed with the main actor, trying to figure out how did he manage to look like he's thinking a lot during the movie. I said, I don't want to do any spoilers. So Stirlitz always, he's always in trouble, always trying to find a way out, not to get uncovered. So he's always thinking hard. So they said like, well, it definitely looks in the movie that you think really hard. How did you make to do that look? And he said, well, I was just solving times tables in my head. Every time they needed me to look thoughtful, I would just think really hard, solving the numbers. So that helped him a lot. Another interesting details is about one of biggest fans of the movie, which was Fidel Castro from Cuba. Apparently, he noticed that during the meetings, there were several seats empty in the hall. So he requested what happened, why some of his people not there, and apparently they told him that there's a movie being played on Cuban TV, a Soviet movie about a Russian spy, Soviet spy in Nazi Germany. And since they don't replay, people didn't want to miss the next series, so they would leave earlier. So Castro contacted his friends in Soviet Union, requested a copy of the movie, and then he gathered all the government members, and they watched all the series in one evening. So they took them about 14 hours, but the whole Cuban leadership watched at one night all this 12 series of 17 moments of spring. So that I thought was quite funny. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this movie created thousands of anecdotes, thousands of jokes, and main topic of this humor is that so the Stirlitz, Standartenführer Stirlitz, it's what pretty much like he's a Russian Chuck Norris. He can get himself out of any trouble, not matter like what kind of horrible situation he finds himself in, he always can dig himself out. So now it's time to talk a couple anecdotes about Standartenführer Stirlitz. And there is the first anecdote about Stirlitz. So Standartenführer Stirlitz is drinking with Müller. Müller is one of the main characters and one of the main leaders of Nazi Germany. So they're drinking together and both really drunk. And Müller says, Stirlitz, I know that you are a Russian spy. Why are you doing this? You know that after the war, your motherland won't appreciate you. You will get shot or you get sent to Siberia. And Stirlitz said, oh no, I'm gonna get a medal and I will get a nice life and everyone will appreciate all my efforts here in Germany. So Müller started laughing like, Stirlitz, you are drunk. You're saying such a dumb stuff. What else you gonna tell me? Maybe, let's see, you're gonna tell me that one day German chancellor gonna wear a skirt, that Russia will be ruled by former spy? And Stirlitz just smiled. In the movie, a lot of us, if you decided to watch it, they will show a lot of the, not the telegrams, but the only way of communication was radio transmission. So, of course, German will try to get these transmissions and decipher them. So they were successful to decipher. So one time, Stirlitz, he was going by name Eustace. So every time they send him a message, there'll be Eustace and whatever the information. So that was a radiogram said, Eustace, you are such a dumbass. So all the German Abwehr and Gestapo was laughing their heads off, but only Stirlitz knew that he got awarded the medal of the hero of the Soviet Union. Another joke about Stirlitz, and then he got another radiogram and it says, congratulations, you have a boy. Oh my God, thought Stirlitz, I wasn't home for 3 years. Another joke is that Stirlitz got trapped in the building. Gestapo blocked all the exits. So he decided to bite a bullet and he used the entry door. So all the exit doors were blocked, so Stirlitz barged for the entry door and escaped. So there's pretty much kind of humor about Stirlitz, that no matter how bad situation is, he will always find a way to get out of it and win the day. Alright, so this is my story about one of the famous Soviet movies, 17 Moments of Spring. As I said, I strongly recommend you guys to watch it, and I hope you enjoyed these jokes, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.